So what's up, people? This is Robert Bassano. This will be my last video until August of end of August this year. I start a new semester of graduate courses. Continue my lifelong journey of learning. No man or woman or child should cease their quest for knowledge and truth ever. You should be learning until the last day of your final breath. So I want to share this with you guys. You know I'm all about documentation. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And I'm going to keep this rated G for the children who I want to have this passed along to. I want them to view this if they are of age to even watch YouTube. I know that my 2-year-old son, Nico, he watches educational videos every single morning all day. And we basically pre-program the YouTube viewing so that he can learn his alphabets, learn numbers. He learns several languages. He already speaks Spanish and English and also understands them. He says a few words, but he's also learning Arabic, Russian, Japanese. Okay, but I want the kids to see this. I want you to share this with any mother or who may have children, or if you're thinking about have children, because this is important. What's going on out there with regard to this movement regarding the shape and design and construct of the earth is resurfaced. And there hasn't been a single person out there that I know of. They may be out there. I might have to do some searching to look a little bit deeper. But no one's putting anything out there for the kids, for the children. They're the next generation. They're the generation that needs to be told the truth. Now, you don't have to believe in this ideology or concept. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to engage in behavior whereby you feel that it's a responsibility for your child to know this. Because it's really not solely about the shape and construct of the world we live in and on. Flat Earth ideology and belief leads to other truths, because the 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 motivation behind exposing children to this is not to have them isolated, ostracized, or ridiculed with their other friends. Okay, it's your responsibility as a parent, as a mentor, as someone children who may look up to point them in a direction to be inquisitive, to develop an understanding of their awareness, their capabilities, of how to develop their own ideas in a manner that's consistent with always seeking the genesis of all information. That's the key here. Seeking the genesis of all information that they're being exposed to. Truth or fiction. If someone says this is true, or the textbook says this is what you should believe, that child should automatically be put in a position where they're allowed to not only engage in critical cognitive discourse within themselves, but also not be stifled by classmates, teachers, and other peers who may tell them, no, Johnny, no, Jane, that's not what the majority of people think. And the key word is majority, because who says that anyone has to go along with the majority? Okay? These kids need to grow up challenging the status quo. And we need to guide them in that direction. Because I know for sure I'm going to be guiding my son in the direction of seeking the genesis of all information that he's going to be exposed to. Okay? That's me as a father. Because I always sought truth when I was a young boy. I got exposed to the flat earth at 10 years old. And I can think back that far. My memory is that good. I can remember back that far. How I can think back that far, that's between me and my maker, me and my creator. There are some of you out there that know me. You know how it is I developed the capability to think back that far. And the comedy behind how it is I can think back that far, now that when I recall that moment, is waking up every Sunday afternoon, living in the South Bronx, growing up as a kid, enjoying being a child, and always looking forward to watching the Sunday morning cartoons. Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner, Coyote, Foghorn Leghorn. I watched all those cartoons. And it dawned on me at the age I'm at right now was that the first idea I was introduced to the construct, shape, and design of the earth was Bugs Bunny. The episode between Bugs Bunny and Christopher Columbus. And then I went into a classroom, at 10 years old, I got called up in front of the class to show my classmates, at the instruction of our teacher, the show on a map, on a globe that was sitting on her desk. She wanted me to point to India. It was geography. And I asked her, could I please pull down the map that's over the blackboard? If you're over 40 years old, then and you went to public schools, private schools, you'll all remember that the map used to always be over the chalk blackboard. And she said to me, why can't you show the class on the ball, on the globe? She didn't use the term ball, but she said, can't you show the classroom on the globe? Well, when you got a classroom of 10, 15, 20 students, you're sitting in alphabetical order, my last name starts with a B, then how are your classmates in the middle and back of the classroom going to be able to identify when you take your little 10-year-old finger and point it to India on a ball sitting at a desk in the front of the classroom? So of course one of the reasons I wanted to show on the map, the flat map on the blackboard, is because it was bigger. And at the time, without realizing it, that's what I associated with. I got in trouble for that. I got taken to the principal's office. My parents got called. And then I got scolded when I got home, and my stepdad says, where'd you get that idea from that the earth is flat? And I didn't have an answer. I said, this is how I see things. He says, well, you're going to now do some homework for me, and you're going to look into this. And that's when the journey began for me. Now, I'd never been anything mainstream or something I focused on from that age all the way up till after 40 years old. But as I got older and started to learn more, and became an honor student from middle school all the way through high school and college, and even being in the military for 8 years, taking land navigation courses, going through mini sniper school, jumping out of airplanes, flying in helicopters, going on training and combat operations, learning how to navigate using the stars. It's when I decided to see what was going on in social media 18 months ago, and doing some online courses, and so a lot of these schools, well-known brick and mortar schools, are having online, degree programs, because, I live in a foreign country, of course. Some of the videos that they post for universities, they're on YouTube. Laboratory illustrations and experiments. And then all of a sudden, I took a course in physics, and I started running into this. and I watched a few videos from a few channelers, enjoyed what they were saying, and it dawned on me, I've got a treasure trove of documents that discuss this, that mention this. So I started looking into those documents I had collected from the military, from my military days and, school days, and started to put everything together like a puzzle. So I wanted to share the information with other channelers, but no one was receptive to seeing the documentation. They just didn't want to believe that any government or university or research paper would actually mention the word flat earth and talk about the topic and subject in a bona fide university or government research paper. And the idea was dispensed with. Totally dispensed with. No one wanted to believe it. One person decided, okay, let me hear what this guy has to say, and I took that leap. Stayed away from social media. Just saw it as a poison. And I still see it as that. Because anytime the truth and the genesis of all information reveals itself, it's immediately suppressed. But governments and the majority out there don't want those who seek the genesis of all information to know where the information really came from. And that is the worldwide deception. That's the worldwide denial and deception campaign, D&D. Misinformation, disinformation, information operations, propaganda, psychological operations. That's where it all comes from. Whenever any entity or government or organization has to engage in, how should I say this, competitive intelligence practices where they're putting out marketing and advertising and data to lead you into believing they think you know one thing, so they're going to deliver you something else that's similar to it, but you're not getting really what you want, that's how you know it's not just isolated to one particular entity. So someone who I've spoken to on Skype several times and over the telephone, I'm speaking with a handful of people who really appreciate the information I put out. They don't have issues with the way I deliver it and why I'm delivering it. They just really love the originality behind it, because there's no one else out there, on this platform putting the information out there like that. The content, the quality of the data that's being shown is not being duplicated. I'm not asking anyone to follow what I'm doing or copy what I'm doing. I'm not looking to copy what anyone else is doing. I was born a leader, not a follower. I pay attention to what's put out there, but I do my own homework. No one does it for me. And just recently, someone who I have great respect for, our minds are similar in construct and design and methodology on how we put things together, shared this document with me, shared this research paper, this research that was done by the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign in 2007. And this video is going to be a reading, and I'm going to title it Planete Veritas for Kids. Anyone viewing this, I want you to share this with every mother, every father, anyone you know who has children, because this is rated G. There will be no profanity used, vulgar language, or negative connotations directed at any one particular group. I will express my opinion and analysis based on the content and purpose and intent behind the paper, but it'll remain civil, it'll remain respectful. But I don't want people to think that this is what every university is engaged in. But I want you all to see the level of deception and malicious intent that governments have for our next generation that is going to take over from us to literally squash the status quo. Okay? This paper, University of Illinois, production note. You see it here. It was a large-scale digitization project in 2007. Let's go through it here. Again, this will be a reading. Technical report number 497. A cross-cultural investigation of children's conceptions about the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. Greek and American data. Stella let me make sure I say her name right. Vasniado, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and Aristotelian University of Thessaloniki, Greece, and William F. Brewer, University of Illinois, March 1990. Forgive me for butchering those people's names. No harm, no foul. The Center for the Study of Reading, Technical Reports, August 13, 1990. University of Illinois, 174 Children's Research Center. Here's the address. So let's go through this. The Center for the Study of Reading. Again, it just repeats the title again, as you can all see that here. Okay. The work upon which this publication was based was supported in part by grant number NSF. Now, for those who don't know, it says it plain as day, National Science Foundation. The National Science Foundation is an arm of NASA. Let me say that again. The National Science Foundation is an arm of NASA. So this was a NASA grant conducted. There was a NASA grant issued for this specific study so that NASA could get an understanding of how they were going to affect the psychology of our future generation. Now, the paper was put out in 1990. So if you have any children that were born in the 80s, you can bet that if you start researching the policy changes in preliminary middle school and high school education, the curriculums, you can guarantee that from, say, 2000 on, when you compare the curriculums, NASA had the curriculums changed and the textbooks changed to reflect the worldwide view they need our future children to agree to. This publication was based on the work which this publication was based was supported in part by grant number NSF BNS 85 TAC 10254 from the National Science Foundation, and in part by the Office of Educational Research and Improvement under Cooperative Agreement number Golf 0087 TAC Charlie 1001 TAC 990 with the Reading Research and Education Center. The publication does not necessarily reflect the views of the agency supporting the research. Of course not. But this grant was issued to conduct that specific research, and they just found somebody who would be able to generate a particular study group to study the issue. My suggestion to those who are viewing this is to look up this grant number on grants.gov, grants.gov. Look up this grant number, and it'll tell you exactly, it'll give you a summary of exactly what the National Science Foundation was looking for, how much the grant was for, and who put it out, and who supported it. Okay? So we'll see if it reflects the views of NASA and the National Science Foundation. Okay? National Science Foundation also, let me remind you guys, also supports the funding for the U.S. Antarctic program. Okay? So let's go to the abstract here. In this report, we present the results of a cross-cultural study on children's knowledge about the shape, gravity, movement, and location of the Earth, and about the day-night cycle. The subjects of the study were elementary school students from Greece, numbering 90, n equals 90, that's what it means, 90 students, and the United States, 60 students. The results of the study showed that the children in both samples constructed similar initial concepts about the Earth and went through similar steps in the process of changing these concepts to make them conform to the currently accepted scientific notions. Both the Greek and the American children conceptualized the Earth as flat and stationary and thought it was located in the middle of the solar system. They also thought that things fall down not toward the center of the spherical Earth, and that the day-night cycle is caused by the movement of the sun and the moon. In the process of changing these concepts, the Greek and American children formed similar misconceptions. Now, let me comment on this. Key words here. Changing these concepts to make them conform to the currently accepted scientific notions. So they're not going to allow these children, they didn't want these children thinking for themselves. They didn't want these children being aware of what they see every single day as elementary school students. And these are students from 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old, all the way to 12 years old. Maybe 10 or 12. That was the same age I was. So as you can see, they want to make sure that kids starting at this age have their ideas conform to the currently accepted scientific notions. A notion? Really, a notion? Do we need to go into the issue of what notion actually means? I think I'm going to give shout outs to other people. There are people out there like Jaron. He can break down the definitions of words very eloquently, very detailed, very specifically to get everyone thinking. I'll let him comment on this. I'm going to send him this video as well. And I welcome anybody to repost it at your leisure. No copyright claims. It's not my document. I didn't draft it. It was shared with me by Mr. Zane Holloway. Okay? The other thing that stuck out to me was this. The fact that these kids didn't believe that things fall down toward the center of this spherical Earth. And that the sun and moon moved around the Earth. And these scientists who did this study from the University of Illinois automatically put these kids in a category saying that they all form the similar misconceptions. So they're already told, hey, your thinking is not right. There's something wrong with your learning process. Maybe you have ADHD or, some sort of learning disability, because if you don't get this out of your head, we're going to have to put you in a special education program, or you're not. I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Jones, your kid is just not getting along in this school. Maybe they need to go to a public university where these ideas can be heard and then immediately dispensed with. Because here at this school, this private school, or at this public school, we don't believe this. Now I can understand why some people rather homeschool their kids, because this is what they have to deal with. And for all you kids out there who may be looking at this video, never in your life allow someone to force their scientific accepted notions onto you to make you conform to the currently accepted scientific notions. Look up the word notion and you'll understand this sentence. And secondly, If you want to believe the earth is flat and stationary, look up NASA publication 1207, August of 1988, linear aircraft model. It's a NASA publication. Go to page 30 for all you kids and read the conclusion. NASA believes what these elementary school kids believe. A stationary atmosphere over a non-rotating flat earth. You're not wrong if you believe this. Your beliefs are not misconceptions. They're just your idea of awareness of your surroundings. And they'll always be yours. Be different. Don't be afraid to be different. Let's proceed. Let's see what else this document says. Let's keep going. Okay. Misconceptions in science. They immediately begin the paper defending the National Science Foundation and NASA's ideology. A cross-cultural investigation of children's conceptions about the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. Greek and American data. Misconceptions in science. One of the most interesting results of research in cognitive science and science education during the last 10 years has been the realization that students often construct powerful misconceptions of science concepts. And for you kids, this Ergo, Clement, 1982, DeSissa, 1982, Driver and Easley, 1978, McCloskey, 1983, Osborne and Whitrock, 1983, Venot, 1979. These are all reference citations to papers, okay? If you're very young, your parents will teach you how to research that data to find those specific papers, okay? And it's probably a paper that is going to talk about constructive, powerful misconceptions of science concepts, okay? Those are some of the keywords you might be able to put in Google to try to find the paper, all right? Or go to your local library or your school library to find it. For example, in the area of mechanics, some students think that a pellet impelled through a curved tube would continue in a curved path when it emerges from the tube. Other students develop a theory that a moving body has a force in it and that the movement of the body is caused by that force. In the area of light, most students believe that their eyes perceive objects directly and that color is a property of the objects themselves. Some students of electricity believe that a switch is like the trigger of a gun. It sends an impulse to a battery to trigger current flow from the battery to a light bulb. Finally, in the area of astronomy, Piaget reports that the case of a child who had developed the view that America was a flat piece of land located under Europe, a flat piece of land located under Europe, and that at night the sun dropped through the European layer and illuminated the lower American layer. Oh my God. Now, this is definitely a flat earth concept that none of us ever considered. 1929, Piaget. And the concept I'm talking about for the kids is this. The idea that the American continent was a flat piece of land located underneath the European continent, and that at night the sun dropped through the European layer and illuminated the lower American layer. That is incredible. That would make sense. But we'd have to put that through some AutoCAD modeling, software modeling, to actually see what that visually looked like. Anyone out there looking to do something like that, you're more than welcome. Please do. Misconceptions may arise for several reasons, and here they try to justify why your thinking is not correct. Don't allow yourselves to believe this. Your thinking is your thinking. Wrong or right, it is your duty to discover the genesis of your thought process. Not based on what someone else shows you or what they say, but based on your own critical cognitive processing. Concepts such as force or light may be misunderstood because they are extremely complex or abstract. That's not true. Concepts like force or light are not extremely complex or abstract. They're actually very simple. Newton wasn't very intelligent. Einstein wasn't very intelligent. Some of the most presupposed complex ideas, constructs, and complexes are not complex at all. They're actually very simple and very rudimentary in explanation, in thought, and application. That's my hypothesis on it. I see things for what they are, their simplicity, not their complexity. Misconceptions can also be created in situations where the scientific explanation of a phenomenon contradicts the initial or naive concept students have constructed on the basis of their everyday experience. How could a naive concept students have constructed on the basis of their everyday experience be a phenomenon which contradicts their concepts when what they see and what they experience every day is supposed to be reality? They are seeing things pure for what they are. So when you're telling me that a student who sees something pure for what it is, if it's not consistent with the scientific majority notions that still can't be proven beyond refutation and question and argumentation and mitigation, you're saying that this is a misconception? Really? Our research has focused primarily on this latter type of misconception. And the latter type of misconception for you kids out there is this. What science is trying to say about you as a child who is pure in thought and idea, innovation and creativity, is that your misconceptions can also be created in situations where the scientific explanation of a phenomenon contradicts your initial or naive concepts which you've constructed on the basis of your everyday experience. So what they're trying to say is that what you see every day is an illusion. It's not real. Because we didn't create that. And because we didn't create that, we can't explain why it is you see what you see. So ignore what it is you see naturally and allow us to create your reality for you, which is control. Now, listen to your mommy and daddy, because until you decide to create your own company and be your own man, be your own woman, run your own company, you got to follow someone else's lead for right now until you become the leader. Don't be defiant just to be defiant. Question everything, but doing it in a manner to get to the genesis of how the information came about. I'm going to keep pushing that. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. All right? That's my motto. Okay. Naive concepts in the process of knowledge acquisition. In our studies of knowledge acquisition in astronomy, we have identified a number of misconceptions that elementary school children in the United States have regarding the shape of the Earth. Ergo, Bissing et al., 1987, 1988. I don't want to keep quoting the authors because they've already gotten me upset with the way they've drafted this biased paper and conducted this biased research. On the basis of this research, we have come to the conclusion that children form misconceptions of the Earth's shape because they find it very difficult to give up the idea that the Earth is flat. Wait a minute. We've kind of got an irony here. And the irony is this. People who believe that we live on a spinning ball, like a basketball, a baseball, okay? A perfectly spherical object in circumference and diameter. These are the people who have difficulty giving up the idea that the Earth is not a ball. They're not the ones in reality. It's those people who have been misconceived by the mass amount of collected data that has been put out and visual reference that has allowed them to stick to this Copernican ideology that the world is a round, spinning ball. That's impossible, kids. Believe it. Research it. All the misconceptions we have identified succeed in reconciling the phenomenal experience of a flat earth with the information coming from adults that the earth is a sphere. For instance, some children believe that the earth is round like a disc rather than round like a sphere. Bravo, children. Whoever these kids are, they have to be geniuses. They have to be successful business people. I hope they are all doing well. I hope they will become extremely successful, whoever these elementary school kids are. For instance, some children believe that the earth is round. Okay, I already read that. By thinking of the earth as a disc, children succeed in reconciling the idea of flatness with the idea of roundness because a disc is both round and flat at the same time. Now, I watched Globebusters and I heard what Jaron had to say, where he started to go into the issue of how we are really seeing the earth. And there was an illustration put forth regarding a round table. The table was flat on top, but when you look at it from an angle at an elevated position, you see the curvature around the edge of the table. That's how we're viewing the earth, from pictures, not from personal physical experience. By thinking of the earth as a disc, children succeed. Okay, I've read that too. I apologize, kids. Okay, other children reconcile the idea of flatness with the idea of roundness by believing that there are two earths, a round one, which is a planet up in the sky, and a flat one on which we live. Bravo, children. The presence of these misconceptions reveals that children are not blank slates with respect to Earth's shape when they receive the information that the Earth is a sphere, but that they have constructed an initial naive concept of the Earth according to which the Earth is flat. Keep calling these children naive because they're young. I was considered naive when I was 10, and I said this. And then they found out when they gave me an IQ test and I started taking the New York City-wide academic aptitude test to go to the next level, which you had to take reading and math. I was in the 5th grade reading on the 11th and 12th grade and doing math on the 11th and 12th grade. So was I naive or was I borderline genius? On top of that, I was taken to a psychologist and given a full-on IQ test, and my IQ was at 123. But that's beside the point. These kids are not naive. They're more aware than grown adults. Children are not naive. I have a 2-year-old, trust me. He's not naive. He's just playfully selective. This initial concept must be difficult to give up. Otherwise, children would have readily replaced it with a sphere concept instead of forming a misconception. So because these kids didn't decide to readily replace it with a sphere concept and wanted to stick to the flatness of the earth and considered there was a possibility of two earths, that's a misconception. No, you can't stick with that idea. We have to focus on changing this. This is what they want to do to your kids. They're not going to do it to my son. Guaranteed. I don't have to worry about that happening here in Colombia because they welcome independent, critical, cognitive thinking in the private schools here. And yes, we are focused on putting our son in a private school where he can learn 3 languages by the time he's done. He's going to learn Spanish, English, and the school he's going to, the primary language for the school, Lycée Français, is French. There you go. Most direct confirmation of the hypothesis that children start by forming an initial naive concept of a flat earth has been obtained from our studies of preschool children. Preschool children, wow, they're starting them early, huh? Just manipulate them as soon as they come out of the womb, huh? We believe that initial concepts represent inferences or hypotheses about the observed world constructed by individuals on the basis of their everyday experience. These concepts are characterized by the fact that they require as little deviation from the world as phenomenally experienced as possible. These concepts change as children are exposed to the dominant theories held by adults within a given culture. In some cases, this change involves replacing the initial concept with a culture-specific concept that appears to deviate from the world as phenomenally experienced. In these cases, the process of change is usually a long and difficult one, and one that has the potential of giving rise to misconceptions. We think that many of these the misconceptions uncovered by the science education research can be seen as resulting from children's attempts to assimilate the cultural-specific theories to their initial concepts during the knowledge acquisition process, and for that reason we prefer to call them assimilatory concepts rather than misconceptions. Bravo, bravo, authors of this research paper. Assimilatory concepts. Thank you for correcting the misconception, because it's not. Implications for cross-cultural research. The realization that children construct initial naive concepts that are based on their everyday experience raises important questions about the knowledge acquisition process. How are such initial concepts acquired? How do they become restructured, and how do they influence further learning in a domain? In addition, the initial concept hypothesis has interesting implications for cross-cultural research. For any of you children out there wondering what cross-cultural means, it means that someone who may believe in something different than you do, live a different way than you do, come from somewhere else where the culture is different, they eat different, they dress different, they speak different. That's called cross-cultural research, okay? Someone, if you're Christian, they may be Catholic, or they may be Muslim, or they may be Hindu, or they may be Buddhist, or they may be not believe in any religion at all, okay? If initial concepts result mainly from an interaction of the human perceptual cognitive system with information coming from the observed world, before the children are exposed to cultural specific information, one should expect that these concepts should be universal because the human cognitive system and many aspects of the observed world are universal. In other words, one should expect young children to construct similar sets of initial concepts about the physical world regardless of the particular cultures in which they grow up. Okay, kind of reconfirms what I had said previously. If children are exposed to different kinds of cultural specific information as they grow up, they will modify their initial concepts in different ways to make them more and more consistent with the information they receive. In some cases, however, local cultural specific views have been replaced by scientific explanations that cross cultural borders. Consequently, many children end up receiving similar kinds of information from their cultural regardless of the particular country in which they grow up. In these cases, if our analysis of the genesis of misconceptions is correct, one would expect to find not only universal initial concepts, but also universal assimilatory concepts or misconceptions. In this report, we test some of these hypotheses in a cross-cultural investigation of the concepts of shape, gravity, location, movement of the earth, and the phenomenon of the day and night cycle in elementary school children from Greece and from the United States. Okay, so for the adults and the children watching out there, I want you to forgive me. I'm going to fast forward just a bit because we want to get to the meat of this research, okay, and how this study was conducted. Method. Here's the method. This is very important when it comes to research, kids. Subjects. The American sample consisted of 60 children, 20 children who attended first grade, mean age 6 years and 9 months. 20 children who attended third grade, mean age 9 years and 9 months. And 20 children who attended fifth grade, mean age 11 years. Hope this applies to you kids who are listening out there. The children came from predominantly middle-class backgrounds and attended school in a town in the Midwestern United States. Okay? Middle class. So this is not a diverse study. I want you to all understand that. What should have happened is that they take 20 kids between 6 and 9, 9 years and 11 years, and then take from a middle class, and then take another 20 kids from lower class, and then take 20 kids from upper class. That would have been more diverse, and from different areas of the country. They didn't want to do that because they had a grant, probably didn't want to spend money on travel. They'd rather spend the money on other things that the money shouldn't have been spent on. Okay, the Greek sample consisted of 90 children. 30 attended kindergarten, mean age 5 years and 5 months. 30 attended third grade, 8 years to 5 months. 30 attended sixth grade, mean age 11 years and 9 months. They also came from predominantly middle-class backgrounds and attended school in a large city in the north of Greece. Again, The study was not diverse enough for me, but for argument purposes and for educational purposes, we're going to proceed with this. But you see the problems with the study already in 1990. It wasn't diverse enough to be considered credible, but the data itself is interesting. The questionnaire. Here's what the kids were asked. We examined children's knowledge of astronomy using a questionnaire. Come on. You're saying these kids are naive, but you're examining their knowledge of astronomy at 11 years old? Okay. These kids must be smarter than what I think they were. All right, here we go. We examined children's knowledge of astronomy using a questionnaire that included questions about the Earth's shape and gravity, about the location and movement of the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, and about the phenomenon of the day-night cycle. The questionnaire was developed through extensive pilot work. It wasn't extensive enough because you only did the middle class. To obtain as much information as possible about children's underlying concepts rather than about the information they may have memorized in a superficial way, we developed a methodology that differentiated factual questions from generative questions. Factual questions were designed to test children's exposure to certain theoretically important facts. As an example of this type of question is, what is the shape of the Earth? Children could answer this question correctly by simply repeating information they had obtained from adults without having necessarily incorporated this information into their conceptual framework. Generative questions were questions to which the children had not been previously exposed and which had the potential of uncovering the children's generative concepts. Examples of this type of question are, quote, if you were to walk for many days, would you ever reach the edge of the earth? End quote. And is there an edge to the earth? We hypothesized that children would use their conceptual knowledge to create a mental model of the earth and then use this model to derive the answers to our questions. We assumed that children's responses to our generative questions would reflect more accurately than their conceptual knowledge because they were not simply repeating facts taught by an adult. Furthermore, we assumed that the presence or absence of an agreement between children's responses to our factual and generative questions could be used to derive information about the extent to which the children had assimilated the scientific information to which they may have been exposed into their underlying conceptual structures. Procedure. Let's go to procedure. The children were seen individually in interviews that lasted from 30 to 45 minutes. Follow-up questions and confrontation questions. Confrontation question? Come on, this is not a cross-examination like a prosecution. You don't get into a confrontational process with a 5-year-old or a 9-year-old regarding astronomy. You just don't do that. You don't get into a confrontational Socratic method of questioning with a 5 to 9-year-old, 11-year-old. So already you've put this kid in a defensive mode to agree with you just so they can get out of the situation. Yeah, okay. Follow-up questions and confrontation questions were used throughout the interview or at the end of the interview to clarify ambiguous responses and to obtain as accurate a picture of a children's responses as possible. Here is an example of the questioning procedure we followed. Renee, first grade. If you walked for many days in a straight line, where would you end up? She answers. You'd end up? Where? You'd end up somewhere where you lost yourself. What if you kept on walking? If you turned around, you'd be lost. Would you ever reach the end of the earth? Yes. Could you fall off the edge of the earth? No. Why not? Because once you fall off, you can't get back on. Well, would you ever fall off though? No. But there is an edge of the earth? Yes. What if you could get back on? Do you think you could fall off then? Yes. If you took the edge of the thing and you had one hand on it, you could fall off easier. Wow. The questionnaire was originally developed in the United States as part of a larger project on knowledge acquisition in astronomy and was first administered to the American children. It was translated by the first author, who is a native speaker of Greek, and was administered to the Greek children with a few modifications, such as the addition of styrofoam models to investigate the Earth shape concept. Let's go to results. Earth shape. Table 2 presents the American and Greek children's responses to the factual question, what is the shape of the Earth? As can be seen, the same kinds of verbal responses were obtained by both groups of children, but with a different distribution. Round was the preferred response by the younger group in the Greek sample, 60% for the kindergarten and 86.6% for the third grade children. And the older children in the American sample, 85% and 90% for the third and fifth grade, respectively. The Greek sixth graders preferred the term sphere, 43.3%, which was not used by the American fifth grade children, only 5%. Now we know where we got the idea sphere from. Thank you very much, Copernicus. Thank you very much, Aristotle. Thank you very much, Plato. Thank you very much, Magellan, Galileo. The majority of the first grade children in the American sample said that the Earth's shape is a circle, 70%, a response not nearly as common in the Greek sample, 3.3%. Finally, some of the kindergarten children in the Greek sample, 13.3%, said that the Earth is shaped like a triangle, a square, or just flat, revealing the presence of an initial naive concept. There we go again with naivety. This type of verbal response was not present in the American first grade children, although it is present in our studies of American preschoolers, except for one child who did not respond to this question, but who later drew a rectangle to indicate the shape of the Earth. Wow, wow, wow. The difference in the responses of the Greek and American children to this question most likely represent subtle variations in lexical usage and do not reflect more fundamental differences in underlying beliefs. In both samples, all of our older children and most of the younger children drew a circle to indicate the shape of the Earth when asked to do so. And they don't insert the tables, they don't insert any of this stuff, so don't be bogged down that you don't see this. Don't worry, you'll look at enough videos that your mother and father allow you to view so you can get an idea of what it is the kids actually were talking about. Children's seemingly sophisticated responses to these two factual questions did not, however, provide an accurate reflection of the Earth-shaped concept. The difficulties of children, they keep saying these kids were having difficulties describing the proper shape of the Earth. They're telling these researchers, you don't see this, but we see this. You're the one who is naive and who's had difficulty because you're a glober. You believe the Earth's a ball. It's not a ball. It's impossible. The difficulties the children in both samples experienced with the Earth-shaped concept became apparent in their responses to the generative question, is there an edge to the Earth? In response to this question, 70% of the American first graders and 86.6% of the Greek kindergarten children said that there is an edge to the Earth, whether people could ever reach it or not. Response number 2 and 3 combined. The number of the children who believe that the Earth has an edge decreased with age in both samples, but yes was still the most common response to this question in the Greek third grade sample, and quite frequent in the American sample. So what these kids are actually saying is, the plane is infinite. There is an edge, but we're not really sure you can really get there. Bravo for these kids. Maybe these kids got flat earth channels out there. I'd love to know who they were. Why do children draw a circle to represent the shape of the Earth, but then say that the Earth has an edge? The discrepancy in children's responses to the factual and generative questions can be explained in a number of ways. One possibility is that the children have simply memorized the adult information that the Earth is a sphere without connecting it to their existing knowledge structures. Consequently, when it comes to answering new questions to which they have not been previously exposed, they use their initial concept of a flat Earth to answer them. Another possibility, not inconsistent with the previous one, is that the children may have formed an assimilatory concept of the Earth's shape. It is possible, for example, that the children conceptualize the Earth to be round like a disc or like a truncated sphere. In this case, the Earth would still be round, but it will also have an edge. Some support for this hypothesis comes from the responses the children gave us when we asked them to draw a picture of the Earth and to show where a man would end up if he traveled in a straight line on the Earth. Many children drew a picture of a man reaching the edge of the circle and then falling down. Figure 1 shows some of the drawings we obtained from the American third graders in response to the question. Again, they don't show the drawings, and I'm sorry about that, kids. All right, so what I'm going to do here is this. This is only going to be an hour long, but kids, I'll be able to put this document up in the channel so you all can be able to download it and have mom and dad read it for you, or you can read it yourselves and get a better understanding, get an education, read the study to wrap your mind around this whole idea. Okay? I'm not pushing this ideology and concept on you if you don't believe it. But it's important for you to understand it, because you're going to encounter people who do believe this. Other classmates, other friends, other family members. And it's important for you to develop your own idea. Look for the genesis of why this is what it is. Okay? Let's see what Veronica said. Here's an example from the inside the sphere assimilatory concept. Veronica, how come here the earth is flat, but before you made it round? Because you were on the ground. But if you go out of the earth and go into space, you'll see a circle around. That's consistent with what Jaren said on Globebusters. So what is the real shape of the earth? Round. Why does it look flat? Because you are inside the earth. If you walked for many days in a straight line, where would you end up? Somewhere in the desert. What if you kept walking? You can go to the states and cities. What if you kept on walking? No response. Would you ever reach the edge of the earth? No. You would have to be in a spaceship if you were going to go to the end of the earth. Is there an edge to the earth? No, only if you go up. Does anyone live here on the bottom of the earth? No, because they live in the states up here. But could they live down here? Yes. Why wouldn't they fall off? Because they are inside the earth. What do you mean inside? They don't fall. They have sidewalks. Things like down, like on the bottom. Is it round like a ball or round like a thick pancake? Round like a ball. When you say that they live inside the earth, do you mean like live inside the ball? Inside the ball, in the middle of it. I put out a video talking about the whole entire construct of the entire system being an internal flat plane surface with surface bulges and slopes and 70% bodies of water, and the rest of the upper layers of the system, which is a 5-layer pressurized gaseous system, were shaped like an expanding, flattening ellipsoid. Look that up. A flattening ellipsoid. That means, kids, for you kids, it's an egg. It's shaped like an egg, and there's a flat plane surface on the inside. Okay. So, they talk about gravity here, kids. All right? And again, the movement of the earth and the sun, they talk about that. Talks about if the earth moves, right? Let's see what explanation of the day-night cycle. It's a long document. It's 40 pages. Location of the sun, earth, and moon. Very important, kids. Let's see what else we can see here. And again, I'll put this link up to this document so you can all see it. Here goes all the references. And that may be pretty much it, kids. And this is some of the tables that were included. Earth shape, initial concept flat, scientific concept sphere, gravity, things fall down toward the center of the earth, Earth's movement stationary, the scientific concept axis rotation and revolution around the sun, Earth's location, center of the solar system, the sun is in the center of the solar system, day-night, movement of the sun and moon, movement of the earth. So you can see, kids, if you believe this, they don't want you to believe it. And these are just table references that you can all go through to conduct a comparison. Which one of these models looks more like the Earth? Kindergartens, 13.3% says rectangle, triangle, or square. 16.6% of kindergartners says truncated sphere or disc. And 70% of kindergartners said a sphere. Third graders, nobody believed it was a triangle or square. 6% truncated sphere or disc. 93.3% of third graders said it was a sphere. These are the Greek children. The Greek children. And it goes to questions that were asked and what the responses were. So, moms, dads, kids, you all get the general idea of what it is I wanted to put out. I'm going to put this up in the description section of this video. Feel free to download it, repost it, repackage it, talk about it, debate about it, share it with all those that you know, and just be careful who you talk to and how you talk to them about this, because if they believe in the globe ball, they're not with you.